Can you buy us, mister?" The words hit Jebediah Kane like a thunderbolt. He looked up from his coffee, startled by the small voice cutting through the December snow at Millbrook Junction train station. A girl, maybe 7, stood before him in a worn gray dress that had seen better days. In her trembling arms, she held a baby wrapped in a faded quilt. Snow swirled outside the station windows. The year was 1952, and Wyoming's winter showed no mercy. Jebediah's weathered hands tightened around his cup as he studied the child's face, hollow cheeks, determined eyes that held too much wisdom for her age. "What did you say, little one?" His voice was rough, from years of calling cattle across endless plains. "Mama said—" The girl's voice wavered. "Mama said we need someone to buy us before the train leaves." She glanced toward the platform, where a woman in a cream-colored dress stood talking frantically with a well-dressed man in a dark coat. Jebediah followed her gaze. The woman appeared to be in her late 20s, beautiful but desperate. Her hands moved anxiously as she spoke with the stranger, who kept shaking his head and walking away. "That's your mama?" Jebediah asked softly. The girl nodded. "I'm Delilah. This is baby Samuel. Mama's name is Cordelia." She shifted the infant carefully. "We don't got nowhere to go, and Mama says, she says, sometimes good people buy families who need help." The cowboy's heart clenched. At 35, he'd been drifting from ranch to ranch since losing his own family in a house fire 3 years ago. His wife Rebecca and their young son had perished while he was away selling cattle. The guilt had hollowed him out, left him unable to settle anywhere that felt like home. "Where you folks headed?" he asked, crouching down to meet Delilah's eyes. "California." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Mama heard there's work in the orchards, but we spent our last dollars on train tickets, and now—" She looked down. "Now we ain't got money for food or a place to stay when we get there." Jebediah glanced again at Cordelia. The woman was now alone, her shoulders shaking, as she stared at the departing train. The man in the dark coat had disappeared into the crowd. "Stay right here," Jebediah told Delilah. He stood and walked toward Cordelia. "Ma'am." He tipped his hat. "I'm Jebediah Kane. Your daughter, she's been talking to me." Cordelia spun around, her eyes red with unshed tears. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry. Delilah doesn't understand. I wasn't trying to." She pressed her hands to her face. "We're not beggars, sir. I don't know what else to do." "Tell me what happened," Jebediah said quietly. Cordelia's story poured out, like water through a broken dam. Her husband Clayton had died in a mining accident 6 months ago. The company refused to pay compensation, claiming he'd violated safety protocols. She'd lost their small house in Colorado, spent everything trying to keep food on the table. "I heard California had opportunities," she said. "But when we got here, I realized I don't have enough money to survive even 1 week." I was asking that gentleman if he knew of any families looking for domestic help, live-in work, where the children could stay with me. Jebediah studied her face. There was pride there and desperation, but also a fierce love for her children that reminded him of Rebecca. "What if," he said slowly, "I offered you something different?" Cordelia looked up, hope flickering in her tired eyes. "I've got a ranch about 50 miles north of here. Been running it alone since—" He paused. "Since I lost my family. It's not much, but there's a main house and the smaller cabin. Good land, clean water, cattle that need tending." "I don't understand," Cordelia whispered. "I'm offering you and your children a home," Jebediah said. "Not as servants. As family, I suppose. You help me run the place. I make sure you and the little ones never go hungry again." Tears began streaming down Cordelia's cheeks. "You don't even know us. Why would you—" Jebediah was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice cracked slightly. "Because 3 years ago, a stranger might have saved my wife and boy if he'd just been there when they needed someone. I wasn't there for them." He met her eyes. "But I can be here for you." The truth was more complicated than that, and Jebediah knew it. After the fire, he discovered a letter Rebecca had written but never sent. In it, she confessed she was planning to leave him, take their son, and start over somewhere new. She felt Jebediah cared more about his cattle and his wandering than about building a life with them. The letter had nearly destroyed him. But standing here now, looking at this desperate mother and her children, he realized something. Rebecca had been wrong. He didn't know how to love, how to build something lasting. He'd just been too afraid to show it. There's something else, he added quietly. Full disclosure, I lost my family in a fire. Been carrying that grief like a stone in my chest ever since. I'm not looking for replacement people. Understand? But maybe we can help each other heal. Cordelia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Mr. Kane, are you certain? It's a big responsibility, taking on a widow and 2 children. More certain than I've been about anything in years, he replied. Delilah appeared at their side, still carrying baby Samuel. Mama, are we going with the cowboy? Cordelia looked down at her daughter, then at Jebediah. If Mr. Kane is serious about his offer, dead serious, Jebediah confirmed. My truck's outside. We can pick up your things. And head to the ranch tonight. Get you settled before the storm gets worse. As they walked toward the station exit, Delilah tugged on Jebediah's coat. Mr. Kane, how much did you buy us for? Jebediah stopped and knelt down, his voice gentle but firm. Delilah, I want you to understand something important. People can't be bought or sold. What I offered your mama isn't buying, it's sharing. Sharing my home, my land, and maybe finding a new kind of family together. The little girl smiled for the first time since he'd met her. Like when you share your lunch at school? Exactly like that, Jebediah chuckled. Except this time, we're sharing everything. 6 months later, the Kane Ranch buzzed with life again. Cordelia had proven to be an excellent partner, her sharp mind for numbers helping Jebediah expand his cattle operation. Delilah had started school in town and made friends quickly. Baby Samuel had taken his first steps in the ranch house kitchen, reaching for Jebediah with pudgy hands. On quiet evenings, Jebediah would sit on the porch and watch Cordelia reading to the children by lamplight. Sometimes he thought about Rebecca's letter, about the family he'd lost. But more often now, he thought about the family he'd found. The price of kindness he'd learned wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in the courage to open your heart when it had been broken, to choose hope when despair seemed easier, and to believe that sometimes the most important purchases in life cost nothing at all. As snow began falling again that December evening, Jebediah smiled. Some things were worth more than money could ever buy.